I've been living full-time inside this camper here in Yellowstone and also Grand Tetons in Wyoming, and I have to say it's come with some upsides and definitely some challenges as well. So in this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about all of that, the upsides, the downsides, the benefits to both, and whether or not I'm going to actually stay here for much longer, although I might have no choice because I think I'm stuck. If you're new here, my name is Matt Zeffy. A little bit back, I left my job in New York City to road trip across the country, living full-time in my camper. And now, of course, I'm in Wyoming, where it is blizzarding and snowing like crazy. All right, I decided to jump into the warmth because honestly, it is dropping to the single digits out, which I don't know if where you're coming from that's absolutely freezing, or if you think I'm a little bit of a wimp for coming inside. But either way, it's nice and cozy in here, so I thought I would do the video inside. And first starters, I wanted to talk about why am I even here? Why am I in the Yellowstone area? Why did I choose to come here when realistically I could have gone to the beaches of Florida or even sunny Arizona for that matter? And the reason being was for a few reasons. Number one was I'm a wildlife and landscape photographer. That's just one of the things that I do, and this is, in my opinion, one of the absolute best places for that, both Grand Tetons and Yellowstone National Park. There is an abundance of wildlife here, and I love photographing and also just being with wildlife in general. Viewing them from a distance is always really, really exciting, and I think that's one of the reasons that Yellowstone and Grand Tetons are my favorite national parks.
Oh my god. There's 3 moose out there. 2 massive bull moose. You can't ask for better than that. And this perfect backdrop.
Also, I think it goes without saying, I knew what the weather expectations were going to be like when I came to Yellowstone. And for that reason, I wanted to kind of test my entire camper, test what I can kind of tolerate, and see how long I can go. And also, I just thought it would be so cool to spend a winter in Wyoming and Montana and see what it would be like. And I don't plan to stay here the entire winter, but I've been here for over a month now, and we recently got like almost 2 feet of snow in the last week, which is absolutely incredible. But the whole point being was I knew what to expect for the most part when it came to the weather. And that was one of the reasons that I came here as well, is I wanted to be here in the snow scenes, and I'll talk about why in just a bit. Also, I don't know if you've seen any of my other videos, but I admittedly love anything Western, and Jackson Hole and Wyoming in general is just like the epitome of the West, and I just love kind of going around Jackson. Obviously, Jackson Hole is a little bit more of like the multi-millionaire, billionaire area. So those are just some of the reasons why I decided to come here in the first place. And in addition to that, this is also a very popular ski area. It's Jackson Hole, also Grand Targhee right across the mountain range as well. And you might be thinking, am I doing a lot of skiing? Admittedly, I don't ski or snowboard, which might sound a little crazy because I love going to like ski towns. I like to call them mountain towns. As someone who just really appreciates these places for the nature that come with it, it also means I save money because I don't have to spend it all on skiing and snowboarding, which is an expensive sport. So why am I living in a camper in Grand Tetons and Yellowstone, not really staying in an Airbnb or, a lodge or something like that? And the reason is, well, I'm living in this camper full time. If you've seen some of my other videos around road tripping around the entire country, and honestly, I love this camper that it's been better than many of the hotels that I've stayed at, ironically. But at the same time, that would be such a costly pursuit to stay in an Airbnb or lodge out here, especially in Jackson Hole, for months. I'm effectively staying in this area for free, so it wouldn't even be possible to stay for extended periods of time, at least unless I was a Jackson Hole multimillionaire. Yellowstone National Park or Gardner, Montana is a little bit more realistic because rates tend to get cheaper in the winter months, but at the same time, I decided to live in this camper months back, and that's why I'm living in it in Grand Tetons and Yellowstone. But of course, this life does come with some ups and downs. So now jumping into the pros and cons, or the upsides and the downsides of living in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem during the winter time. Starting with number one, the best part about it has to be the landscapes here. I mean, even just looking out the window behind me, it just looks incredible. And Mount Moran is back there. It's just seeing the entire Teton range and seeing the Rocky Mountains all around this region is so incredible with snow-capped peaks. It's just my favorite time of year to be here. So without a doubt, the number one upsides of living in a camper here in Yellowstone has to be the views. And having this camper with windows nearly all around kind of feels like you're inside a snow globe, which I absolutely love because it'll drop down to sometimes the negatives and I could be in here nice and toasty warm. Also, this time of year, the wildlife tends to be a little bit easier to track because of the prints in the snow, but also they come down to the valleys for the warmer climates. So in general, the wintertime is a pretty good time for wildlife viewing, not to mention the incredible backgrounds that you can get behind the wildlife as well. Another upside has to be the absolute silence and solitude of this season in Yellowstone. There are no crowds, there's really no noise, and yes, there are very, very few people. And realistically, I like to find a balance between spending time in like more, I guess, crowded places versus being absolutely in the middle of nowhere in nature. But right now, I legitimately am in the absolute middle of nowhere and there's nobody around. And then of course, along with that on the supply and demand side, there is way more availability this time of year, but things tend to be closed. However, if things are open, like right now I'm at Coulter Bay Village in Grand Tetons. And this is like you have to book this place months in advance if you want to camp here in the summertime. I'm camping here in the winter and there is nobody here except for me, which is insane. And I'm effectively camping here for free as well. So another reason for being here in the wintertime has to be for those inexpensive rates and the availability overall. Another big upside has to be the almost mental reset and meditative nature of being here in the winter. It's silent and the snow actually like dampens sound even more. So I can't even tell you how peaceful it is as you're walking through the forest, and the smell especially is enough to kind of solve all of your problems. And as someone who came from a very overstimulating New York City, I used to actually wear noise canceling headphones about 95 to 100% of the day because it was just always too chaotic for me in general. And being here, I never touch my headphones because it's just always this beautiful silence unless you choose to go into town where it's a little bit more happening. Another upside is it kind of forces simplicity. I'm very much a person who likes slow Sunday morning coffee. I just said that with a very severe New York accent. I'm someone who likes those like slow morning coffees, and all that to say, that's pretty much how every morning has been here. Another upside is I am really putting my capabilities to the test, and also this camper's capabilities to the test as well, seeing just how off-grid I can get, just how long into the winter I can go, and really what it takes to be off-grid in the winter. And I'm learning a lot. I'm learning that I definitely don't have enough lithium power, and that I'm probably going to need a generator because even today my battery's down to like probably under 30% at this point, and I'm getting very little solar, although the sun finally came out after like a week of just full overcast. And even though it's like, yeah, I gotta clear off the solar panels every morning, I'm learning what it actually takes to be, one, in the middle of nowhere, and two, off the grid. Alright, but it's not all sunshine and rainbows, you know this. Let's talk about some of the downsides of living here in the wintertime, and there are many, I'm not gonna lie. But starting with number one, the fact that I kind of touched on it a little bit, but I am constantly monitoring, one, the temperatures in here, and also the battery life in here because I'm running off lithium, not connected to any shore power whatsoever, completely off the grid. It means that I pretty much always have to monitor the batteries because the battery is what keeps the fan on the furnace running. It keeps all of my electronics running, my cameras. It keeps my Starlink running so that I have internet access. Just a whole bunch of different things that the lithium battery is absolutely necessary for, and having electricity. And another huge one is propane, because if the propane goes out, one, I can't cook on my stove, and then I don't get any heat. And yes, I do have plenty of backup options and emergency plans in place in those sorts of scenarios, but it is somewhat annoying in the back of your head that you could always run out of propane at any time. I do have sensors on the propane tanks, but they just barely work in these very freezing temperatures. Also, like I said, it's been snowing absolutely nonstop, which, you know, the first like 5 to 8 inches, I was like, this is lovely. This is like a winter wonderland out here. But then it kept going forever. And it's like still actively snowing. And while I still do love it, I have been clearing my car off just about every hour, and it's almost getting out of hand. So, living in the cold in this sort of climate out in Yellowstone can be in itself a full-time job. That's another huge downside. Having to drive an hour to go to the gym or the grocery store is an extreme amount of time. I mean, I went a couple days ago, and it felt like when I got back, half the day was already gone. Now, thankfully with Starlink, I haven't had to worry too much about not having internet access, which is honestly a huge relief because, you don't have to worry as much if like your car were to break down in the absolute worst case scenario. In any sense, that is a terrible thing to happen, but at the same time, it's far worse if you have no cell reception. And the gym aspect, I do have to say, is one of my biggest downsides because I do like to go to the gym pretty regularly and start my day with that. It just kind of puts me in a good routine. And not having it within an hour, which means I'm not going every day, is probably one of the biggest challenges. The other downside is you're pretty much at the whims of the weather. Honestly, in this spot here, I'm probably going to pull out here and try and see if I can go to a different campground, but I'm also not 100% sure that whether I'm stuck or not. We're going to find out shortly here. But living in a camper, you're always at the whims of the weather, and you know how Wyoming weather can be, especially with the wind, can get really hectic. But with the snow, I don't want to be towing this thing when the roads are extremely slippery, when there's a lot of snow packed down. So that just means preparing and also planning around the weather becomes all the more important when you're out here. I also will say there's like significant differences in Yellowstone and Tetons. There's these areas because Tetons has the whole skiing infrastructure around, so there's much more people and again infrastructure. And then Yellowstone, with only Gardner, Montana being the entrance, that's the only entrance that's open to Yellowstone National Park right now. There's no skiing up there, so there's very few people and very few things that are open. So not to mention the fact that there are literally almost no campgrounds in that area that are open, except for Mammoth Hot Springs campground, and it also doesn't have electricity, so I would still be off the grid. But in my opinion, all of those downsides are completely outweighed from the upsides. I don't know that I'll stay here forever. I am in a camper. We can move at any time. I think we're going to find out if we're stuck here or not. But at the same time, this place has been one of the most spectacular places that I've ever got to live in. And people keep saying to me, like, you can go anywhere in the US, like I can go somewhere sunny. Why am I staying here? And it's because I obviously love it. Waking up every morning for sunrise, seeing the Tetons come out, there's just really nothing quite like it in my opinion. So kind of had a very specific vision on what I wanted to do here, and I feel like that is kind of creeping to an end, but all that to say, I'll definitely be back. But let me know down in the comments if you guys have any questions about living in a camper, what it's like living in a camper in the wintertime, and living in Yellowstone in general. I would love to see it. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're new here, because I've got a ton coming in the very near future. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you out there on the road.